Good afternoon. This is Dr. David back with another fresh episode of Fresh Start with Dr. David. And in this case, this is the first episode that I've done this year. I kind of struggled with what to start off with, but I think I came up with just the right thing. But anyway, welcome to 2026. 2026 obviously has already begun. We're 2/3 of the way through this month so far. And to say that it's been a chaotic month, if you watch the news, is a gross simplification, but that's the whole point of this podcast. So we can move past the drama, the junk, the negativity, all the things that might take us backwards and focus on the things that help bring us forward and give us a fresh start. So welcome back again to the Fresh Start with Dr. David podcast. I've got a great lineup of topics and things this year planned. In particular, I'm going to do more things on money and financial matters and entrepreneurship and things like that. So as you know, I've got several practices. There's Atlanta Holistic Mental Health and Wellness, Atlanta Coaching and Hypnotherapy Associates, which is more geared towards self-improvement, life coaching and hypnotherapy versus people who have a mental health or psychiatric diagnosis. Then there's Atlanta Health and Wellness, which is to help people with diet, nutrition, lifestyle choices, changing behavior patterns, things like that. And then there's also Atlanta Academic Achievement, which is a practice that I started that really ranges across all of my practices. And that's like helping people with memory, with organization, helping people with career change, things like that. Anything that has to do with studying, acquiring knowledge, stuff like that. But then I also have one called the Atlanta Small Business Incubator that a lot of people don't know about. And it's www.atlantasmallbusinessincubator.com. And basically, it's geared to help people with entrepreneurship, starting a business, growing a business, managing a business skill sets, do's and don'ts, things that I have come up with to help clients of mine who weren't necessarily wanting to be in the workplace working for someone else. For one reason or another, they figured that they would be better suited for entrepreneurship, starting a small business, starting a service, selling products, whatever it is, doing something that's more in line with their purpose, their passion, what ignites them internally and things like that. So I started the Atlanta Small Business Incubator for that purpose, and it helps people build a strong foundation for a business. As you may or may not know, most businesses fail within the first 20 months of operation. And the reason why is a bunch of basically common, obvious mistakes that people make, and they may not think about it because they're blinded by their passion and their purpose and things like that. But, that's the thing about a business. It can start with a passion and a purpose, but it's got to end with strong, solid, data-based, evidence-centered business practices and habits. And if that's not there, then the business is going to fail. And as someone who's had several practices that have been relatively successful for the last over a decade, I try to help clients build a strong business based off something that they enjoy, they like, that they're passionate about by giving them tools and helping them avoid pitfalls, whether they have to do with marketing, advertising, you know, brand management and other kind of things. So I will be doing more episodes that are centered around business this year. People have been requesting that, and that's something that I will do. And so I'll probably do one maybe on brand creation, brand strategy, maybe next month or maybe in March. But anyway, welcome to 2026. Despite the chaos so far this year, you do have an opportunity for a fresh start. Don't let anybody interfere with your fresh start or derail it, right? And that brings me to today's topic. As I said earlier, I kind of wrestled with what to do about the first topic of the year, but I wanted to start at the root of things. As you know, my practices are root cause-based practices. They aim to get to the root of things so you can truly solve the real problem, not the symptom of it. Um, but I wanted to start off on this basic topic, and that is the topic that a lot of people try to avoid, especially these days, and that's the topic of commitment, right? What would I like to commit to? What am I willing to commit to? What could I commit to? What could I not commit to? What shouldn't I commit to? All of those kind of things. And, I think it's a good place to start because a lot of times there's a dysynchronicity or non synchronicity between what you desire and what you're willing to commit to. And I'll throw out some concrete examples of that, but we see it every day. Or somebody says, I want X, Y, and Z. But when you ask them what they're truly willing to commit to, that's a totally different story. And then what you actually observe that they commit to in reality is another thing. And then what they actually do with the commitment is yet another thing. And so you've got, the further you go down the line, you've got bigger, more substantial movement away from what they state that they desire or want and what they're committed to or willing to commit to in order to get it. So, and I experienced that in college. I remember half the people that I went to school with in my classes were like, I'm pre-med, I'm going to be a doctor. Not, I had some classmates who were pre-law because I was pre-law and pre-med, but a lot of people were pre-med until they took physics or until they took biochem or until they took organic chemistry or general chem 1 and 2 or until they took some class that made them go, you know what? I thought I wanted this, but this is a whole lot more than I signed up for. And then it gets even worse than that in medical school. But, and basically what happens is people get weeded out because the concept is if you truly, truly, truly desire or want something, you're willing to commit to it. If you don't really want it that bad, or maybe you want it for what it looks like or for what you think it brings, but not for what its true essence is, then it's a different story and you're not going to commit to it. So, hello, Windows. So, a lot of people say that they want X, Y, or Z, but when you ask them what they're willing to commit to, it's totally different, right? And that could be a million things. It could be becoming a doctor. It could be joining the military. It could be starting a small business, being an entrepreneur, a sales career. Here's another one, realtor. I've heard so many young people, especially when the economy is not as good as it could be, or the job market, and they take a break from school or they finish school and they go, well, I've got a lot of student loans. I don't know if I want to go to grad school or not. I'll just become a realtor for a few years. And then they realize how much work and energy and how much the competition is, especially in a city like Atlanta or the greater Atlanta area. And they're like, you know what? After a year or two, they're like, I'm giving up realty. That's just not going to work. And that's after they've invested some time and maybe even taken the test and things like that. So there's a big difference. So one of the things that I would like you to do, and this is something that I do myself, is I don't necessarily ask myself what I desire or what I want. That's not the starting point, right? Because we all want everything, right? Everybody wants to be rich. Everybody wants to be relatively thin. Everybody wants to lose weight. Everybody wants to look good. Everybody wants to be liked. Everybody wants to have a positive attitude. Everybody wants a nice home. Everybody wants a nice car. Everybody wants vacations. Everybody wants good investments. Everybody wants financial security. Everybody wants to have fun every once in a while, not just girls. Everybody wants some level of comfort and convenience. Everybody wants it. So why start at what you want? Because everybody else, that doesn't separate anything out. But when you go with what am I willing to commit to, that's a different story. Now you're starting to get somewhere because now you're asking yourself, how badly do I really want this? Or is it just on my Christmas list, right? Or my Hanukkah list or whatever list you have. So that's part of what I want you to do. And so I'm all about taking small steps. You can achieve great things starting with small steps, right? Little things, as I like to say. So ask yourself this question. Don't start with what you want or desire. Start with what am I willing to commit to this year? And then follow that up with what you want, right? So instead of saying, I want to be a millionaire, and that's your starting point, instead say, what am I willing to commit to today, this week, next week, this month, next month, the next 11 months or 12 months for the full year in order to become more financially sound and more financially fluent. That's a much better thing than starting out with, I want to be rich. Well, who doesn't want to be? So start out with what you're willing to commit to and then go from there. And it doesn't matter if it's small. Maybe you're only committed to saving $10 a month. Hey, that's better than committing to spending $10 a month, right? That's a $240 difference between spending $120 and saving $120 in the same calendar year. So think about it like that. What am I willing to commit to? And I promise you, when you start asking yourself what you're willing to commit to, you're going to get closer to what your goal is than what your imaginary goal is, right? Okay. And with that, I'm going to wrap up. My goal is to do shorter, more frequent episodes. So this one is on commitment. I want you to commit to something personally, professionally, socially, a cause. That cause can be you, your empowerment, whatever, but commit to something. And instead of starting with what are you dreaming about or what are you envisioning or what do you desire or what do you want, start with what am I willing to commit to today and for the next 11, 12 months. Okay. With that, you take care. I will see you on the next episode of Fresh Start with Dr. David. If you need to schedule an appointment or you'd like to request more information, visit us online at www.ahmhw.com. That's www.a as in apple, H as in health, M as in mental, H as in health, W as in web.com. Take care.